What's up, world? Welcome back to another episode of What You Need to Know. My name is Brian D. Exclusive, and today we're going to be focusing on how propaganda is used to manipulate people into doing things against their best interest. Now, everybody knows about propaganda. If you went to any rudimentary elementary school, hopefully at least before COVID, you have heard some information about propaganda. More than likely, you've heard about it through the lens of World War II and the way that Hitler used the media to convince people of his narrative. You may have heard about it in Cuba and the way that Castro was able to use it to control the flow of information. Same thing as what happened in China, over in North Korea. The list goes on. Propaganda has this illusion as if it only happens from communist dictatorships, as if it only happens from totalitarian control. But propaganda is actually a way more common and a way more abundant mechanism for controlling the way that people are able to operate throughout their daily lives. It could be used as a euphemism of marketing. It could also be used as a euphemism of campaigning. So the question is, how is it that the masses are able to be manipulated into doing things against their best interest? How is it that people on the far left or the far right are able to fall down these traps that can put them into more or less a cult, into more or less an occult like situation? Well, I have a few videos today that I want to go through, and the first one is from back in 1948. It's a public service announcement, essentially, letting people know how to be aware of propaganda and how to think through whether or not you're being manipulated. Let's check it out.
You can begin by investigating the techniques of propaganda. Glittering generalities,
What is a glittering generality?
a victory for good government.
But it's true, isn't it?
What's true? What does good government mean? Is the mayor's idea of good government the same as yours?
I see.
Right.
It's a glittering generality.
One of the best.
There's another.
Yes. And why do you suppose our opponents chose that phrase?
I guess because everybody likes a real American.
Right. And they wanted to transfer that liking for a real American to Mr. Butler. But a great deal of propaganda is much more hidden, much harder to detect. You'll find that the purpose of most propaganda is to persuade people to believe something, to do something, or to buy something. Your next step,
Exactly.
and it's a big one, is to get the facts.
Well, is he a real American?
Howard Butler was born in this country. He obeys its laws. He's a good citizen. Yes, he is a real American. The same can be said for Richard Cooper. So ask yourself whether the facts support the purpose. Do they support the transfer of feeling from real American to Mr. Butler over Mr. Cooper?
No, I guess not.
Well, that's your fourth step. Weigh the facts against the purpose and the technique.
I think I understand. To know whether propaganda is good or not, whether it's true or not, I should know the purpose, recognize the technique, get the facts, and judge the purpose and technique by the facts.
I love that video. Now, if you're over the age of probably about 18 to 22, you would know this is critical thinking. You have to be able to break down situations, assess the information that you have, and go forward accordingly. And it seems like that has been totally lost. And part of that is, in fact, because the propaganda that has been used against us has trained us to not do this. You have to trust the experts. You have to give up your self-sufficient nature, your ability to recognize reality. Because who are you? You're not the expert. Do you have a historian degree? Then why are you telling me about history? I don't care if you lived through it. Who are you? You're not an expert. Show me that piece of paper. Well, this propaganda has been used very heavily over the last decade and a half. And it was being used to destroy the family unit. They did this by implementing different welfare policies and increasing the reach of them to people that don't belong to our country, which was the most unbelievable thing to witness as it was happening. They used it to push this LGBTQIAP plus agenda that is designed to destroy the ability for people to procreate because they don't want the family unit. Everything has been centrally set up so that way the thing that makes countries the best, the most common factor for developmental prosperity, they've just totally gotten rid of it. It started with the trans issue. And after so many years of fighting this absolute absurdity, which really hit a boiling point with Leah Thomas and everything just a couple years ago, they are now moving to an Islamic takeover of the world. And it's fascinating to watch the trans movement die out and the last little beacons of the flame just fade away while we have this new, equally destructive, maybe even more destructive ideology that's following behind it, and all of the leftists are getting behind it. And it's fascinating because they're getting behind it out of the fact that Israel is committing war crimes that people can't accurately call out without being called an anti-Semite. I've spent weeks posting videos of Islamists destroying our culture all over the West. And I've done it strategically because I want you to understand that Islam is a threat. It's not that Jewish people are out of their minds to be concerned about them being wiped off the face of the earth. That doesn't change the fact that war crimes are being committed. I'm going down a long tangent. Before I go into that, I have a clip. It's from Piers Morgan's show, and they're kind of talking about the end of the trans movement. And I think it's really important. It's a signifier of the culture and where we're really at. And after this, I want to go through a little bit of how this has transitioned into the Islamic takeover. All right, let's check out the clip.
People are done with the trans thing. They've had enough of it. This whole, they're just kind of regular people
100%.
like you and me, but happen to dress up like with. No, that's not really what's going on. You've unleashed an entire fleet of mentally ill lunatics on the public, and now we have to deal with the fallout of it. We have to deal with having to deal with these people on a day-to-day basis. A lot of people are sick of it. This guy is just echoing the thing which is in a lot of our minds, which is that, hey, we're kind of tired of these mentally ill lunatics on our streets. We really are.
Ava?
I find that really frightening. I mean, why would you say someone was mentally ill because they feel they were born in the wrong body? I mean, does that give you pleasure or joy to just stamp down on someone's, personhood? What's the intent here?
Do you value truth?
Such an absurd statement.
Of course I value truth, yeah.
Good. Then here's what's true. What's true is that if you're a man, you can't be a woman.
Right.
And if you're a woman, you can't be a man. That's what's true.
I don't think it's helpful to get into
Hang on. I'll let you talk, but let me finish. Your attempt to gaslight everybody into the opposition of this truth builds resentment. And it's that resentment that you have to deal with. And it's you have done it to yourself. Like most of these things, the left does it to themselves. It's very obvious. People are not going to accept this. The trans agenda has stalled, and it stalled out the LGBTQ agenda with it because you're trying to gaslight people into something which is obviously not true.
Exactly. Now, these targeted psyops have been deliberately done so that way the most vulnerable people in society can become radicalized. I am a firm believer of that. And the way that you know that that's true, and going back to what I was saying at the beginning, what makes people go against their best interest? There's a clip going viral on Twitter of this LGBTQIAP plus activist that is supposedly queer for Palestine. That's what they call themselves, the Queers for Palestine. Well, they went to Amsterdam and they were attempting to help support the protest. They wanted to help the Muslims and their fucking attempt to destroy their culture. And look at what happens because of it.
Ik doe mee met de demonstratie.
Kijk, je bent welkom, maar...
Nee,
ik ben bang voor je. Ik kom uit Palestina, wij zijn bang voor iedereen. Christen, moslim, homo, iedereen. We willen heel ver, wil je meelopen.
doe mee.
Kom. Draai wat zien, zo doe je mee. Oké, stop. Ik ben bang voor je, man.
It's absolutely incredible that after all of these years of this manipulation, that these people are not willing to look into anything at all to exercise any critical thinking in order to see how they're being manipulated. A lot of that comes down to the fact that most people don't truly understand what propaganda is, so they just assume that the experts are who they need to rely on, which was part of that big psyop. Now we have over here in Michigan, Dearborn Heights becomes first United States Police Department with Arabic on official patch. That is insane. So you can see on the picture, that is not English, that's Sanskrit, I believe. We are losing our culture rapidly. It's happening in New York, Dearborn, Seattle. It's happening in Minneapolis. It's happening down in Texas now. All over the country, this is happening. I know a lot of you think, oh, you've just been covering European news. Why don't you care about America? It's because what is happening in Europe is coming to America. These same leftist policies, the same way that they did with the trans bullshit, and they started forcing these kids into taking puberty blockers and arresting parents for talking about it, the same way that happened there first, this is the same. We are facing a future where we will be destroyed. And if you don't understand how serious this is, check out this video of these Islamic terrorists just storming through the streets of London as the Muslim Defense League. Check this out. Is that the London that you recognize? The most deadly cult in world history. Here's another clip of the same Muslim Defense League, these terrorist gangs going around and just striking the ultimate level of fear into people. Check it out. They're running around with weapons. And some of the most iconic architecture in the world behind these evil terrorists. How long will it be before they destroy those buildings? How long? Because I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. It happened in every other culture that these Islamic take over. They destroyed the churches, they burned the libraries. And it's not just that. Here's another one. The religion of peace. Remember, you're Islamophobic. You can't even talk about this. Are you an expert? It's absolutely evil. So now the pushback against this leftist movement has reached a new level because these clips from all over the world are starting to circulate, and we're realizing on a mass scale the propaganda that was used to allow all of these people to come into our cultures and just totally destroy instead of assimilate. Now they're talking about getting rid of the right for people that are trans to own firearms. Now there was just the shooting out in the Catholic school with I'm not actually going to say his name. He doesn't deserve that. But there is a number of these incidents that have taken place. And I agree that while I am staunchly pro Second Amendment and I am radically against almost every situation where somebody can get their guns taken away, the only situation that I can see is if you have a forced chemical imbalance, because that's the only one that I think that you can conclusively prove. If you are taking chemicals against the better nature of yourself, then you probably are too dangerous to have these firearms. I mean, if you're a danger to yourself, how can you have a firearm? How can we trust you around others? It's a very valid point. Now, I have this clip from Tim Pool where he sort of broke down a little bit of this in the intro to his show.
The staunch to a right saying, I don't care, you can't do this. Conservatives are saying, if you're mentally ill, you can't have a gun. And that is the debate. However, consider this, my friends. Will liberals take this to the Supreme Court? If they do, the Supreme Court will expand gun rights because of liberal arguments. And if they don't, they abandon the transgender activism. I think this is a political move by the Trump admin, knowing they're putting Democrats in an impossible situation.
And that's exactly what it is. And it's a valid argument. How are you going to argue that people can have these gun rights if you are against gun rights? Either way, they're going to have to fight against their own self-interest as a communist regime. They can't win in that scenario. But what do we do when the police are taken over by this Islamic ideology? How do people defend themselves and expect to have the freedoms this country is granted by God if we have police officers that are more interested in Sharia law? And I know you're probably thinking, that's not going to happen. Yeah, maybe we got some Arabic writing on police cars and things like that, but we're not going to ever see Sharia law or even anything closely related to it in America. Police officers want to do that. You say, as we all saw what the police did during COVID, destroying businesses and ruining the lives of millions. Well, check this out.
So I'm going to give her a little example. So ideally, there's different ways, by the way. You fit it how you want to, but you could make one side short, one side long, right? And then you put it over.
This is the New York Police Department.
And some ladies get creative. You can put a pin. I freestyle everything I do, as you can see. And then I just tuck it in right here.
Trying to be relatable. I freestyle everything I do when I have to cover my face and body. I do it freely. Freestyle.
There's different ways, but this is the most simple
Freestyle
way.
for Allah Akbar. And now they got these non-Muslims putting them on by Muslims. If somebody ever asks you to cover your body like that, man, woman, it doesn't matter, tell them to go fuck themselves. So evil.
You wanna turn your...
Yeah, let one of these people try to tell my sister that she has to cover her face like that. Fucking
You wanna
insane.
turn your face a little bit this way? Yeah. Wow, congratulations. Wow, look good.
Assalamu alaikum. We are super excited to be here at World Hijab Day. We're excited to interact with the students. We're excited to interact with the public, to show them that a Muslim woman is strong, resilient, and we can do whatever we want.
Oh, really, Kenya? You can do whatever you want?
Assalamu alaikum. Today's Hijab Day, or Sabko Hijab Mubarak or Hijab Day Mubarak, or just be who you are with the hijab.
Be who you are with the hijab. Ain't that crazy?
Assalamu alaikum. We're happy to be here to show our support to these girls and encourage them to be who they are. Thank you.
show करेंगे अपने religion को proudly as a Muslim American.
So how long are we going to put up with this all over the world? How long are we going to allow our cultures to be totally dismantled from within based on false compassion that doesn't actually help anybody? It doesn't help the Islamists that are being brought into this cult. It's not going to help the women that are going to be raped and forced to have babies between the ages of like 10 and 13, which happens all the time in that culture. This is not going to be good for anybody. Now, here's another viral video. And here's my question for everybody. Can you tell me where this is? Is it London? Minneapolis? Dearborn? Like where? Where is this? Or maybe even Iran? Where is it? Can you tell me? Yeah, what city is this? Put your best guess in the comment. What city is this? Absolutely incredible. But there's still hope. I have this video of a Muslim woman who converted to Christianity, and they have this montage that they put out kind of showing that transformation process. I like seeing this because there's still the chance that when these women come over to our cultures, before they go full totalitarian and take over, that they might be able to free themselves from the cult. Because this is as bad as any cult has ever been. If you're concerned about what's happening in Mormon culture, if you're worried about Scientology, but you have the gall to pretend that Islamists are not just as bad, if not worse, than any of that, then you are out of your mind. But let's watch this woman change her life and find Jesus. Short video, but I just love seeing that there's still hope because they want us to feel hopeless. They want us to feel so hopeless that they're willing to let our streets get shut down by these Islamists so they can do weird versions of worship, which, as a Christian who is essentially told not to go out in public and worship in this way, it's so bizarrely strange to me to witness this. Let's check it out. Just all of these Muslims just in the middle of the street. They're not on the sidewalk. They're not in a park. They're in the middle of a street praying. Like, why? I'll tell you why. Because the idea is to disrupt our culture. That's 100% what it is. People really need to understand the threat that is going to come to our society if we do not see the propaganda for what it is. Why are we allowing Islamists into our country? Why are we allowing them to stay after recognizing how bad it is pretty much everywhere that they show up? There's now videos starting to surface, and I'm not going to show them because I can't confirm if they're real or not, but supposedly this is starting to happen in China, which I have a hard time believing. They've been doing a genocide against the Uyghur Muslims for a long time. So how they would be getting a mass movement over there, I'm not sure. But then again, everything from China I feel like is just controlled propaganda. But that said, not just China, there's videos of Japan where they have Muslims starting to take over their streets. We have to take this seriously because all we have left is the culture to keep us. And if we lose our culture, we will lose the last little bit of our society. They are outbreeding us, they're importing us, and it's going to be the end of our culture. That's all for today. If you enjoy my content, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on all social media platforms. Brian the Exclusive. That's Brian with a Y. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.